But besides this, in the past 2 months, there have been a series of increase both in the amount and in actual action being taken to improve the situation in key sectors that have plagued the banking system with bad debt. The power sector is being looked into. Both coal import and mined quantums of coal are likely to increase. SEBs are beginning to charge more. The government has decided to guarantee, like I said, the Air India bonds. There are also no fresh scams, fortunately. Well, all this is coming on the back of interest rates that may have peaked. So, is the worst over in terms of bad debt generation? That is the question we are asking our experts today. Joining us are Mr. N. Seshadri, Executive Director, Bank of India, and Pawan Agarwal, Head of Banking and Head of Banking Ratings and Director, CRISIL Ratings. He joins us from CRISIL. Well, first up, Mr. Seshadri, let me start with you on a more micro issue of the Air India debt restructuring that has so far come into the public domain. We understand that 7,400 crores of government guaranteed bonds are likely to become a part of the Air India restructuring. Can you tell us what are the highlights as you know them?
As of now, the final details are yet to come, but on the basis of what discussions we had, in fact, in 2-3 rounds, 3 issues clearly emerged. One is on the duration of the loan. Second is on the sacrifice or the provision that the bank had to make on the net present value between the contracted rate and the future interest to be charged. And third is how those cash flows which would affect the Air India's business would in turn be available to meet the commitments towards the bank interest and repayment of principal. Clearly on the duration, there was a large agreement that these were all the funds which are used for long term, and there is a clearly a need to move from the short-term loan to long-term, and there is a broader agreement. And this 15 years repayment of the debt is something which in fact banks have given a clearance, and we are quite happy that the government of India has in principle agreed to guarantee us the interest payment, which is very critical. One of the reasons why the CRPS was not really finding favor with the banks was CRPS as an instrument need to be in fact serviced with the current year income. And the business model of any airline for that matter, and even Air India in particular, doesn't see set to create servicing capabilities. And that is exactly why the banks have been asking for the government of India to guarantee the principal repayment as well as interest, so that they remain a performing asset.
Okay. So what exactly is the
issue in terms of...
okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
No. What is the benefit to you? I mean, you said that you have asked the government to guarantee principal and repayment. Is it to only that 7,400 crore, which is now being changed from cumulative preference shares to government bonds? Or is the government giving a bigger guarantee, even in terms of that 11,000 crore, the bigger package, the bigger part of the bonds of long-term loans?
My understanding is these bonds will be outside the portfolio of the banks, and probably these bonds would be guaranteed to the government and will be taken by insurance companies and other players. So from the 20,000 odd crores, the total outstandings to the banks will come down by similar amount, and the government will independently guarantee these bonds. These 11,000 crores need to be serviced by way of periodical provision, by way of capital infusion by the government, and we expect the interest servicing and the principal to be guaranteed by the government, because otherwise Air India on its own may not be able to really service this interest.
So how much will your provisions...
In fact, I said the final details we need to work out. Yeah.
Well, on the second part, has the government agreed, and how will it make a difference to your provisions?
No, if the principal amount is guaranteed, in which case there is no requirement in terms of the security. Otherwise, in fact, an unsecured loan, if it is not guaranteed, in fact, if it is not serviced, there is always a threat of the account becoming an NPA. And more importantly, Air India may not be able to service this debt, even 11,000 crores in the near future, and there must be a infusion of capital from the government by way of actually periodical provision from the budget, so that the interest gets serviced to the banks.
So I still am not able to get a number on to how much provisioning requirement falls for you. Under CRPS, how much was the provisioning requirement expected to be? How much does it fall to now if this entire package is approved?
Lata, as far as CRPS is concerned, the moment in fact the repayment is in the servicing is not happening from the current earnings, this becomes an NPA. Now that CRPS is out, and this will be by of a bond which the government guarantees, and probably it will be subscribed by insurance companies and other investment. So that problem of 7,000 odd crores is out as far as banks are concerned. That remains with about 11,000 crores, which banks have lent on short term. They need to be converted into a long term, where the payment need to be over a period of 15 years, but they need to be serviced on a month-on-month and quarter-on-year basis. Now, Air India clearly doesn't have cash flows to meet those servicing based upon what we have seen in the business plan. And somebody need to basically service, and a capital infusion of almost about 10,000 crores plus is what has been envisaged over a period of next 7 years by government, and this capital infusion basically will take care of the interest commitments. And the principal would get rolled over on a longer period of time, probably with no repayment coming in the first 7-8 years. We have to work out the final details, but this is broadly the cantos that we have really discussed.
Okay, Mr. Seshadri, I just wanted to focus on, in terms of negotiations that happened with Air India, what were the preconditions which were actually put forward by banks with regards to operations of Air India before this restructuring package was actually approved?
No, the precondition, there is nothing like preconditioning. We need to basically give a solution which is workable, and clearly servicing of this debt of this magnitude was not within the business plan purview of SBI Caps, which worked out. And what was basically said was the interest repayment and interest and principal repayment need to be basically addressed to, because if that is not the case, this account would become NPA sooner than later. This is the main concern, and I think in fact the discussion which had happened at the highest level seemed to have taken cognizance of this concern of the banks.
Fair point. There appears to be a promise to put in what I think 2,800 crore of equity over the next 10 years or thereabouts. That was one of the features of the package, we understand. Pawan, let me get you in on the discussion at this juncture. It does appear that the worst of perhaps NPLs that might have been caused by Air India is going to recede. At least the amount of bad provisioning that banks will have to do is actually going to decrease. There are also positive noises on the permission to allow airlines to import ATF. Are you getting a sense that with respect to airlines, probably the worst of NPLs is over for the banking sector, or is it too early?
I think the decision that has been taken is welcome, because it will address the issue of the potential exposure turning into NPAs. It will give a little more time for the airline to get its acts together, get the cash flows back, and align that repayment with their cash flows. However, like in aviation, we are seeing several other sectors. What is needed is a far more fundamental focus on reforming and making sure that the cost and the revenues are aligned with economic costs. And I think that effort is something which we believe is going to take a little longer, and therefore the pressure may have been alleviated for now, but I think the fundamental still is weak, and that is something that still needs to be addressed.